October 17th, 2021 was the last time that the Carolina Panthers had a winning record. And you have to look back 1 month earlier to find their last 3-game winning streak. But this week, the Panthers find somehow, some way to get it done on the road in a sloppy game against the Jets to go to 4-3 and go over 500 and get a 3-game winning streak for the first time in over 4 years. Now, the majority of the media and the fan base expected the Panthers to win this game. The Jets are just not in a good spot right now as a football team in terms of talent, in terms of production. So it was really no surprise when the Panthers opened as favorites to win this game. A lot of people also describe this game as the most obvious Panthers trap game ever. And I believe if this was any year previous in this era, we would have lost this game. We would have handedly lost this game late. But in the same fashions that the Panthers showed in Week 5 at home against the Dolphins, same thing the next week against the Cowboys at home, where they just continue to show growth and fight to not limit themselves through the same mistakes that they've had in years previous. Not to say at all that they were mistake-free in this game. Actually, quite the contrary. The Jets simply made a lot more mistakes than we did. And really, if Carolina didn't make the mistakes that they did, at least offensively, they could have ran away with this game. Now, a lot of the talk earlier in the week, at least from the team, from Canales, from Derek Brown, and other leaders on this team, were talking about how they cannot overlook this Jets team, as any team that's backed into a corner and looking to get their first win of the season can play very inspired ball. Now, to start this game, it looked like the Panthers were set to, play this hard style of football yet again and not overlook the Jets, even after a somewhat big return and giving the Jets good field position to start the game. The defense ended up getting a stop due to the inaccuracy of Justin Fields, and the offense responded by driving down the field before they kind of petered out in the red zone. Bryce threw a ball to the corner. Both Leggett and the finally elevated Jalen Coker were in the area. Not really sure who the ball was intended for. My best guess, it was Coker, and he just didn't work over far enough to where Bryce put the ball. But they started the game, one drive with a field goal. Now, the backfield situation in Carolina was another thing that was really focused on by the media this week due to, the exceptional play of Rico Dowdle. And were they going to, get back to Chuba Hubbard? Who was going to get the majority of the carries? Are they going to go with the guy who has the hot hand, or the guy who's, a leader of the team and getting paid handsomely for it? But Chuba Hubbard did start this game, and the first drive, it didn't look as explosive as it did with Rico in the past 2 weeks. So on the next Jets drive, they started it by allowing Justin Fields to get sacked. It was Derek Brown and the rookie second round pick, Nick Scorton, finally getting into the sack column. I was so proud and happy that he finally got in the sack column. I've been I just love cheering for the guy, and I love seeing him finally get that big play. But this Jets drive would ended up petering out relatively quickly after only 6 plays, and then the Panthers would get back the ball. Now, the next drive, it was Rico Dowdle's turn to be the running back in the backfield. They started with their backs near the end zone, so they get some space with Rico, hit him in the flat. He gets 17 yards on that play. Now, the Panthers would find themselves later in the drive on a 3rd and short, where they would try to pass in that situation, incomplete, and they end up rolling the dice relatively near midfield. They go Rico up the middle, and it just does not work. I think during this game, it was really obvious that Damian Lewis was not playing, and Austin Corbett made a lot of mental mistakes, I'll put it that way. And, it's tough when you don't have all of your guys in the same position. Of course, the Panthers have made it work over the past, the entire season, essentially. They have not really had their whole group to go for one game. But Austin Corbett, at times, just made some really dumb mistakes, and it cost them on this drive as they were not able to get the push. So now the Jets have the ball starting in Carolina territory just past midfield. They would find themselves early with a 3rd and short. Justin Fields was able to scramble, and then he was hit. Not that hard, but still, it's a forcible play. That's always going to be a penalty. On the slide, Nick Scott, much maligned guy by me, by the media, by a lot of Panthers fans, except the coaching staff. But yeah, he ends up eating a big hit from behind. And also, Lathan Ransom ends up coming out of this with a personal foul. I'm not sure why the offensive lineman was not flagged for his hit on Nick Scott, because it was after the whistle, and it was, you gotta get you've got to get your get back for your quarterback. But at that point, it was so late. Nick Scott looked like he didn't mean to do it, and it was forcible contact. But this pushed the Jets into pretty deep Carolina territory. Now, this hit would also draw Justin Fields out of the game. I believe it was up top that called down for the trainers to take him off the field. But Tyrod Taylor comes in, and they end up petering out in the red zone. They tie the game 3-3 in the second quarter. Now, the Panthers responded to this with another Chuba Hubbard drive that just ended up not going anywhere. Very quickly having to punt the ball. And this was also a drive where we got to see a one-on-one of T-Mac versus Sauce Gardner, and Sauce Gardner got the best of him on this drive. So on the punt, Jets were pinned pretty deep. Justin Fields also comes back into the game, and the Panthers force a QB draw on 3rd and long. Jets fans did not like that. I feel your pain, Jets fans. I've seen stuff like it in my day, but the Jets end up punting for that. Now, the Panthers respond to that with a 3-and-out of their own. Just offensive line play was a little bit off all day in terms of pass protection, and that caused some things to happen on this drive. They also get backed up due to an offensive pass interference with Xavier Legette, and they end up punting yet again. Now, how do the Jets respond to this? By going 3-and-out yet again. Panthers' run defense against Breece Hall did great all day. With all things considered, they continued their hot streak defending the running backs, these supposed star running backs. That is, they force another 3-and-out Jets punt. This is the perfect time to mention Trevor Etienne finally getting back to return punts after his muff punt against the Atlanta Falcons back in Week 3. And he looked very shifty, he looked fast, and he gave some good returns, including this one for just before this drive started. Starting near midfield, the Panthers found themselves in the 3rd and long. Bryce would roll and find T-Mac open in a soft spot of the defense. T-Mac would reverse field and push himself forward and fight to make it a 4th and short. The Panthers would go for it, and Bryce would find T-Mac yet again for the first down. T-Mac, of course, what hasn't been said about the guy? He is, of course, supposed to be the number 1 guy on this offense, and at times like this, he looks exactly like he's supposed to be. Now, this was another Chuba Hubbard drive. After the T-Mac conversion, they would go to Hubbard, and then go to Hubbard again on a screen where I don't believe the offensive line heard the call to actually run downfield. Chuba was able to get in front of them pretty quickly, and if he had that wall of blockers near the end zone, he would have probably got in. But a big gain, putting the Panthers 1st and goal. Then on 1st and goal, Bryce would drop back. He would be able to roll for a good amount of time. Blocking holds up really well. He rolls to the left. Legette works himself open and catches it in the end zone for a touchdown. Now, I haven't talked about Legette's performance in this game yet, but I can't be happier for him. As you can see, I'm a South Carolina fan. I went to watch him during my 1 year there, and he's a much maligned guy. He did not have the best start to the season. He did not have the best return, although he did have the touchdown against Miami. But Legette made a lot of catches that I don't believe he would have made last year or earlier this year. This was a true return to form, in my opinion, for Xavier Legette to the prospect that he was supposed to be. And nothing tells that more by working open as a big guy, a big target in the end zone. For the touchdown, Panthers go up 10-3 on a beautiful drive. Now, the Jets attempting to run this 2-minute drill and not give the Panthers an opportunity to get the ball again. would get some decent yardage on this drive until a blitz was sent. Trayvon Merrick sacks Justin Fields. Now, at this point, Carolina is actually trying to get the ball back. I love the aggressiveness that Dave Canales has shown in these spots during the season, or at least during this 3 out of 4 run. But the Jets respond. They get a pass on the left side and end up getting the first down. But then Fields is sacked again. This time it's A'Shawn Robinson, who's been putting up some pretty nice production in that middle group. Of course, the defensive line of Carolina as a whole has been, a by committee type of thing where you have so many guys rotating to keep guys fresh. And Robinson gets another sack, and the Jets just eat it. They don't attempt to call a timeout or anything. And, Boo Birds come out in MetLife Stadium as the Panthers go into half with the lead 10-3. Now, to start the second half, Panthers would receive the ball as they normally do. They love to defer to the second half. They love to start with the ball in the second half. Trevor Etienne with another beautiful return, getting them all the way up near midfield. The Panthers would get a little bit of momentum in this drive, but again, the drive just seems to stall way too often once you get inside that 40-yard line. He had a chance for Jatavian Sanders in the end zone. He missed, or there was a slight miscommunication due to the pressure. But Panthers were able to kick the field goal. Ryan Fitzgerald, a guy who I'm increasingly just gaining more and more trust in, where I just don't think he's going to miss when he walks up to a field goal. But he knocks it in, and the Panthers go up 13-3. Now, the big story about this second half from probably any outlet that you'll look at is Justin Fields was benched for the veteran Tyrod Taylor. And how can you hate on a guy like Tyrod Taylor? Trying to give this offense somewhat of a spark, and he would a little bit. He would put them in a position to potentially drive down the field, but that was ended on a third down where Nick Scorton was able to collect his first solo sack. And again, just so happy for the guy. I love cheering for these guys that, are going to be a little bit of development. I thought Nick Scorton may have gotten a little bit more production earlier, but it doesn't matter now. It's so glad to see him come back from his punctured lung in the preseason, and just come back and making plays against a team where he should make plays. So on the next Panthers drive, it was another Chuba Hubbard drive. The previous drive was a Rico Dowdle drive, and Hubbard gets a little bit going on this drive. Bryce Young ends up finding Xavier Legette over the middle for one of the plays where I just do not expect him to make. It's another thing where this guy has to. I have to see him make these things happen consistently for me to get the trust and I always love the guy because of his South Carolina roots, and I'm not gonna openly hate on a guy that plays for my favorite team and really does nothing to actively hurt the team, in my opinion. But he makes a catch. He makes a great catch over the middle for a first down that I did not expect him to make. But then the Panthers really just get away from the run game, go 3 straight passes on third down and long. Bryce Young is sacked, and I cannot really tell what happened. I don't know if he got cleated. I don't know if he got rolled up on. But we come out to find later in the game that Bryce Young goes to the back, and he is out with I believe, a right ankle. And this was the worst case scenario, in my opinion, for going, or my worst fear for going to New York, going to MetLife Stadium. This is not a field, it's a graveyard. And people will complain about it until the Giants and the Jets move away from it or change the field in general. So now the next Jets drive after the sack of Bryce Young, and this was before we learned that Bryce was going to be out. They get to an early third down and 8. It's a close play between Mike Jack and the Jets receiver. The Jets challenge it, and they get the first down, and then Tyrod starts to drive, and they start to drive. And at some point, the Jets get a little bit creative. They run a double reverse, flea flicker, taking a deep shot downfield to Alan Lazard, I believe it was. I am so impressed with the play that Trevin Wallace makes here. Trevin Wallace, he was always going to be a rangy guy. He was always going to be a fast guy, but the awareness to make that happen it just shows the development that he has had You know, the awareness, the just improvement that he has had learning from guys like Josie Jewell, Shaq Thompson, and now Christian Roseboom. And Trevin Wallace really, to me, is just a guy who I just continuously see making plays. And it was really impressive to see him, while they were way behind the defense, figure out the play and run down and make a play to prevent a touchdown. Now, the Jets take another deep shot after that, and they had a step. They had them beat. I don't know how the Panthers secondary is letting them get over top. Again, the secondary as a whole has been a little bit of an issue, but mostly the safety spot has been an issue, as Trayvon Merrick has mostly been playing as a big nickel type of role. But it was just a phenomenal play by my guy, J.C. Horn, former South Carolina Gamecock. A one-handed interception, his second one-handed interception on the season. This one, a diving one-handed interception, completely sucked the life out of any momentum that the Jets had at this point. Now, in comes the next drive, and we all learned that, it's going to be Andy Dalton the rest of the way, and it's really hard to keep yourself hopeful when, down goes the guy that you want to cheer for, you want to watch play, you want to see improve and play at a high level, and it just goes to your backup, Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton at points in the preseason was an absolute liability. But he comes out, throws a nice strike to Xavier Legette, who, thank God, is not seriously hurt on this play. He landed pretty hard. I believe he just got his wind knocked out of him, maybe. But, big play. The best thing about this drive, the Panthers started to, get the clock moving, taking the life out of this game. Even though this drive ends in a punt, they take almost 6 minutes off the clock. Now, moving back to the Jets side of the ball, Tyrod was able to connect deep downfield yet again to get this offense jump-started. They would end up petering out late, and the Jets would settle for a 47-yard field goal, which they would making the score 13-6. And in classic Panthers offense fashion, or at least Panthers of old offense fashion, they would go 3 and out, punt the ball back to the Jets, and give them a chance to tie the game. Now, the Jets' drive did not start well. It started with a sack by Derek Brown, who had 2 sacks on the day. And, Derek Brown, one of the leaders of this team, so good. And you can tell he was missed so badly last season. Always a nice guy to cheer for, just being a monster in that interior. But their drive also did not end well. Taking a deep shot down the right sideline, Tyrod Taylor essentially looked like he was throwing the ball where J.C. Horn was the receiver. J.C. Horn stayed in phase the entire time, essentially made the catch with perfect, and I mean perfect leverage. J.C. Horn with his second interception on the day, the third on the year, and just completely, again, sucked the momentum out of anything that this Jets offense had going. Now, again, Andy Dalton at quarterback, offense goes 3 and out, as Dave Canales does not want to be aggressive with Andy at quarterback right now. I guess that could be one complaint about this game, that Canales, once Bryce came out, was not really that aggressive, but I think that's for a good reason, because this offense is built around Bryce. So after the punt, Tyrod Taylor would be sacked again. This time it was a combination of Derek Brown getting his total up to 2, and Princely Umanmielen, another one of those rookie edge rushers who, you want to see develop week to week, and that's what he's been doing. He gets a shot this game to play more in this game. He was off the field a little bit in this game because of, I'm not sure what injury it is. It looked lower body, maybe like groin-ish area, but I'm not sure. But he gets in for a half sack. Derek Brown gets in for a half sack. On third down, they would take a deep shot, and good coverage downfield by Mike Jack. They were looking for Josh Reynolds, incomplete. And at this point in the game, it's an opportunity for the Panthers to run down the clock. The Jets choose to take their offense off the field. They punt from that position. And it looks like a lot of the same is going to come from this Carolina drive. Chuba Hubbard, negative run. Chuba Hubbard, 4-yard gain, leaves them with a 3rd and long. And to me, this is one of the gutsiest probably the gutsiest call in this game, is to trust the guy who you want to be the guy so bad. 3rd and long, they take a one-on-one deep shot to Xavier Legette, who runs past the defender, works back to the ball, and makes a great catch. Boom, ices the game. Could not be happier for the guy. He finishes with 9 catches, I believe 92 yards, and 1 touchdown, easily the best performer on that offense. So that ends the game 13-6, a very, very sloppy one, but a win is a win, and I don't believe they came out seriously injured. We'll have to see with Bryce in the locker room. Rico Dowdle said that Bryce told him that he was going to be fine. He was also seen wearing a boot walking out of the stadium, but of course that's probably customary. Canales said that he will get, his MRIs, and they'll figure out what really is his availability when they get back to Charlotte. But a Panthers win is a Panthers win. Sweet Caroline plays. Now, a few stories coming out of this game. One is the obvious one. What is going on in the Carolina backfield? Rico Dowdle ends the game with more touches, but at times it just seems like Canales just, hey, you got this drive. Hey, you got the other drive. Rico ends up being way more efficient than Chuba was. He ended the game, I believe, just shy of 100 total yards. And he was much more efficient than Chuba was, and this makes me worry because, Chuba's a guy who, through the thick and thin, has been a Carolina Panther. And but it might be time just to let this offense ride the hot hand. This also is really muddy right now because of the injury to Damian Lewis. And Damian Lewis not being available in this game, it does not give a true look at how good this run game can be with both of them. And because Damian Lewis has been a mauler in these past 2 games. The next thing I want to talk about is you pay big for your guys, you get big plays out of your guys. Derek Brown, of course, one of the highest paid at his position, with a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal game. So many tackles. He had 2 sacks. He was a monster in the run game. He always is a mauler in the run game. But it was really impressive to see him as a pass rusher in this game, not only getting sacks, but also getting pressures. And who else would you want as a leader, as a captain of your team than Derek Brown, a guy who wants the best out of each and every person that is around him? And the other guy, of course, is J.C. Horn, a guy who keeps on telling you, stick with the process. Don't be with us. If you're not with us now, you don't get with us down the road. And he comes out of this game with 2 great picks. The first one, a phenomenal play, one of the best I've ever seen. I'm telling you, he did not have those ball skills at South Carolina. He had nowhere near the ball skills at South Carolina. And he's developed it at the NFL level. And he now moves to 3 picks on the season. I believe he only allowed 1 catch. And from what I saw from PFF, whatever you think about PFF, but he had a passer rating in the single digits given up in this game. Just a phenomenal game for a leader of the team, a guy who is, at one point this offseason, was the highest paid corner in the league. And it really gives some satisfaction and, a reason why, yes, we did this and it was the right thing to do because J.C. Horn is playing at a high level right now. And moving off into that, this was such a good bounce back for our cornerback spot. They got absolutely cooked by George Pickens last week, and that had a lot to do with Dak Prescott just being such a good quarterback this season. Now, the Jets' quarterback situation and offensive situation is not the best, to say the least. You want to expect your guys to do really well. And, the defense as a whole did well. They continuing their dominance against the run. But against the pass this week, they did really well. Under 200 yards passing. I believe that's 172 to be exact. But Mike Jack had a lot of pass breakups in this game. He looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable, not having to go against a guy like George Pickens. And, it's really exciting to see a player to be able to, play bad one week and immediately just be able to bounce back and have confidence to play at a high level. Now, one story coming into this game was, of course, the return of Jalen Coker. And unfortunately, he had a couple targets. He had no catches. And I just think it'll come with time. A lot of this game, the offensive issues, I believe, was the missing Damian Lewis, who obviously the Panthers on the road have not been the same team that they have been at home. But Damian Lewis has also communicated a lot on the road on that offensive line. He's the guy who gives the center the signal on the road for the silent count. But you're missing a guy who's a mauler, but also a guy who is, not a liability as a pass blocker at all. And unfortunately, Bryce also comes out of this game. Andy has limited time, limited throws in his bag for this game just because of time, and Canales wanted to play this a little bit conservative. But Coker's time will come, I believe. It's great to see a guy like Xavier Leggett be able to get open because Coker's there. The Coker effect was felt. It was felt because Jalen Coker is on the field, and because defenses are worried about him in some way. Xavier Leggett's able to get open and have a career day and put himself on track to be where he wants to be in his second year. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is the pass rush. Now, at times, this pass rush looked as stale as it has been this season, but they end this game with more sacks than they came in with, right? This is the second time I believe this has happened this season. The second time. I remember against Miami, they at least doubled. I believe they got, if they came in with 2 and I think they got 3, then yes, this is the second time that they have done this season. They have these games of great sack output followed by games with no sack output. But this also was not a good Jets offensive line group. When you're going against a group like the Jets, you expect to get pressure, and a lot of pressure because, Tyrod Taylor, Justin Fields, more than anything, is holding on to the ball for a good amount of time. But a good amount of these sacks came from a pretty quick pressure. And it's great to see, Nick Scorton getting there, Princely Umanmielen getting there, getting back to the blitz game, Trayvon Merrick getting back there. He almost had 2. But then your guys in the interior, Derek Brown has been dominant, of course. But anytime you can come out and put 6 sacks on the board, you got to be happy with your group, and you got to try to use that fuel and throw it into your fire as a group, and it's got to be great for the morale of those guys in the edge rusher group. So the Panthers come out of MetLife Stadium in New Jersey with a 13-6 win as they get ready to travel back home for a daunting task in what will probably be one of the biggest home games in years, going against the sliding Buffalo Bills. That should be a fun game. We'll have to see next Sunday. That was a Panthers win. I want to say thank you for watching. This type of thing was something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I love talking about the Panthers. I love everything about the Panthers. They make me feel a lot of positive things regardless of what their record is, and I just love cheering for this team. So why not talk about them? So again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Consider subscribing, and I will see you later in the week or next Sunday when the Panthers hopefully get another victory to move to 5-3 on the season.